chapter 11 and 12, we need to be able to find the chi-squared value and the f value from the tables, especially when you're taking the quizzes. When you're working problems in Excel, you can use the f.dist and chi-squared distribution functions to find the p-value or the table value to do your computations. When you're taking the quiz, you have two options. One is you can find it from Excel, or you can find the table value. I think the answers for the quiz are based on the table values, and the table values and the Excel value may be slightly different because Excel is more accurate, whereas table is rounded down to the number of decimal places it is rounded down to. So you have to be able to use the tables to find the chi-squared and f table values, and you can get to these tables in a couple of different ways. If you go to the main tab page where you have all the chapters, way at the bottom you have the tables tab, and all the tables are listed here. So if you click this link, you get to Appendix B, and in Appendix B you have all the tables listed here, and you can expand by clicking this plus key. You can expand the table and you will have the list of the entire table. And the Appendix B link is a more complete table. For instance, you have all the columns and all the rows, and some of the tables in the chapter itself has a limited number of columns and rows. So the tables from the appendix are more complete. Okay. Or the second way of reaching the tables is to do the problems themselves. If you go to, say, chapter 11, and let me illustrate, do some problems from the back of the chapter, and that will illustrate how to use the tables. Okay, here is the chapter, and I'm going to go to the exercises. Okay, so now we want to find the chi-squared table values for these parameters, and you see there is a link to table 11.1. If you click that, that will give you this link will open up this table, which is from the chapter itself. And this table is in page 486. Okay. Or you can go to the appendix table 3 by clicking this link. So now you see the same table like just a few minutes ago. Okay, so let's look at how to find the table value for chi-squared. So remember, chi-squared, the subscript here, what you see is the area to the right of that point. So if you want chi-squared of 0.05, so that area is 0.05, area to the right. And for a degrees of freedom of 5, so you go on to degrees of freedom of 5, and you go to 0.05, then that's your answer to part A. Now part B, you want chi-squared of 0.025 and degrees of freedom of 15, then okay, here we have to expand the table by clicking that plus. Okay, so now we have the enlarged table. So now you can go to degrees of freedom 15 and 0.025, which is right there. So that's the answer to that, and so on. Okay. Now let's look at a problem itself. Suppose you have a sample of 20, okay, and that provides a sample standard deviation of 5, and we want to compute 90% confidence interval for the population variance. So we need now two chi-squared values. So 90% confidence interval means the middle area is 90%. So 10% will fall equally on the two sides. So 5% here and 5% here. So the subscript here would be 0.05, 5%, for this value, and for this value again the right side value will be 95% because this tail is 5%, so the right hand side area is 95%, so subscript is 0.95. So we now look at degrees of freedom of 19. Okay, n minus 1 is the degrees of freedom, so 20 minus 1 is 19, and you have 0.95, which is that 10.117, and 0.05 will be 30.144. So that's your, see, 30.144 and 10.117. Okay, and standard deviation is 5, so you have to square it. So n minus 1 is 19 and 5 squared, so you get the confidence interval for the variance. If you want 95% confidence interval instead of 90%, you want 95%. So now middle area is 95%. So 5% equally distributed on these two sides. So this, you want 5% equally distributed in both sides. So this is 2.5%, that's 2.5%, or 0.025. So you have 19 and 0.025 will give you 32.852 here, and the right hand side area for that point will be, take away 0.025, so you get 0.975. So 0.975 will be 8.907. So 8.907, 32.852, n minus 1 times s squared, 5 squared. Now this is the confidence interval for variance. Now if you want confidence interval for the standard deviation, all you have to do is to simply take a square root on both sides and you get this answer. So this is how you will find chi-squared value from the table, and you do the same thing if it is a hypothesis test and you want the critical value for chi-squared. Then you go to the degrees of freedom and look at the alpha value at which we want the chi-squared, and you read the chi-squared value from the table.